All right, let's try this again for like the third time. I have no idea what is going on. How are you guys doing? Hopefully this is gonna work. I've been booted twice already. Keeps giving me community strikes. Not sure why. But anyways, hopefully this is working. I'm gonna give a couple people some time to roll in here. If you're new, welcome. Tweet FPV. I cover FPV drones, products, tips, tricks, help out a lot of people in the community getting their stuff up and going and off the ground. And before we get moving, I left everything out of the description because I don't know what it is. It's flagging these things. But if you want to check me out, head over to Patreon, look up Tweet FPV, Instagram, obviously YouTube because well you're already here. All that other stuff. Drift, John Larson, hey, welcome back again for like the third time. I don't know what the heck's going on. Yeah, weird stuff. I really hope it's just YouTube being crazy and I'm not actually getting community strikes. But that's what it told me. So I know you only get a few of those before they like remove you from the platform. And I really don't want that to happen, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I got this guy. I'm not really going to say what we're doing with this because well, YouTube got me scared. You know what, Brent? It might actually be because of that. That's my, virus stash. It's not going away till we go back to normal, if we ever do go back to normal. But yeah, so I was out of work for about 28 days. It's the longest I've ever gone without A, working, and B, without shaving. So it's been interesting. So today we'll be getting rid of this little guy here, and I'll be rolling right into a live build. If you caught one of my last videos, it was the build of the Pyrocube. It's their box style frame. The one I built flies really good. I'm really happy with it, but I didn't really pick the components I wanted for it. I was worried about durability, and I've crashed the living snot out of it. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Yeah, I've crashed the living snot out of it, and it's been holding up really well. A lot of the components I used were things that I just had laying around. This time, I'm going to build another Pyrocube, but it's going to be with all the pieces I want. Lightweight motors, 20 by 20 stack, VTX camera, all that stuff that I would like to put in it, and see if we can get it to be a little, yeah, definitely don't say the V word. Yeah, a lot of people have been getting hit for that one hard. Anyway, so I've got this little guy here. I haven't really covered this on my channel. This is the CATX Dolphin. I'm gonna be straight with you guys. I didn't really like it. It wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be. It's still a decent little camera. Surprisingly, its nighttime performance was really, really good. Way better than it should have been. But anyways, voice is out of sync. Okay, well, I wish there was something I could do about that. Might be because I'm using NDI. It's a new plugin for OBS. I have a old laptop that can't really do a whole lot, and a good computer that can do a lot. So my laptop here is taking in all my video and audio, and my big computer on the other side of this wall is doing all the heavy lifting and the streaming. Maybe I could bump this down to 30 frames a second, and maybe that will help a little bit. And I can't do it because I'm already streaming, so oh well, live and learn. Sorry guys, I'm sure I'll just get booted off sooner or later anyways. So the criteria for picking this guy up was I'm trying to meet the community guidelines of Patreon. Basically, you can't do a random giveaway. You can't do anything just for patrons because it's akin to gambling. The community guidelines are pretty strict about it. I know there's a lot of people that do otherwise, but I gotta play by the rules. I don't want to get kicked off of that. Actually, I really don't care if I do, but anyways, I try to keep everybody happy, try to play by the rules best I can when it applies. So basically the criteria for doing any sort of product giveaway is it has to be a contest where I pick based on something. It can't just be the random wheel of death. That's still technically gambling. I know there's a lot of people out there that do that, but anyways, the criteria this time was to submit a picture of your favorite or most flown build. Keywords being your picture of your quad. Again, I can't verify these are your quads, but if you send me a product listing picture, clearly that's probably not your picture. I sat down with my daughter today and we went through the pictures, and we came up with, we picked out a couple of them that we really liked. Oh, by the way, as we're going through here, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them over in the comment section there. More than happy to, yeah, John, it's basically a security camera that has a box format. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them over in the box there, and I will be more than happy to try to answer them to the best of my ability. Big thing I always biggest questions I ever ask, it's always binding and FR Sky related crap. FR Sky has made a disaster of the hobby with their alphabet soup of naming convention and firmware and all that crap. On my whiteboard over here, I have like a roadmap of how I want to cover this topic, and every time I get ready to make this video, they change something. So I think I'm just gonna have to put my foot down and just do it, and then deal with all the results of that later. So anyways, let's get on to what most of y'all are here for. Ooh, I said y'all. That's the first time I've done that in a long time. All right, here we go. Hopefully that should switch on your end. So here is the Google form that you had to fill out to enter the contest. I had 78 responses, and that's pretty good. I'm really kind of surprised. And you know, I put in a little bit of filler in there. You know, basically shameless plugs: YouTube channel, Instagram, things like that, Facebook. And the other criteria was that, yep, you have to cover shipping of this little guy. So, of all the entries, here is some of the pictures. The ones where people put a direct link, I've already weeded through those. Sorry, if you put a direct link in, you didn't, you know what I mean. So anyways, we're gonna go through here. This is just a list of the pictures that come in. Google Drive worked out way better for this than I thought. And just scrolling through this, there was a few that caught my eye and my daughter's eye. A couple things we really liked was this little toothpick guy here. This was that's a really cool looking quad. Oh, and the criteria of what I like is basically it's just whatever catches my eye. Really like this one. My daughter, she absolutely loved this one, and I kind of agree with it. It's kind of a cool looking. It's like a toothpick with a beta top on it. Yeah, let's see. Let's keep on rolling through here. Let's see what else we can find out. Yeah, Bandalorian. Take a picture with our handle on it. Yep, that meets the community guidelines. That would probably work. But we'll try to get creative with it for the next giveaway, just for funsy, and we'll see how we go with that. I'm hoping the stash goes away before then, Brent. What am I building today? Asked Craft King number 1. I'm building a Pyrocube. It's going to look a lot like this when it's done. This is the first one I built, and it's a porker, and I'm really happy with the way this guy flies. So we're gonna build another one of these things today. Not a lot of YouTubers doing racing drone. Well, actually racing related content. It's a lot of the acro flippy floppy stuff, but I'll admit I do more racing than I do acro. I don't know why. I think it's just because there's something tangible in the end. You have an end result. I'm not the super competitive type, but I do like don't know. I could race against the clock, and I'd be perfectly happy. Anyways, back to the entries here. Another couple that caught our eye was, this one here for sure. And me and my daughter both really like this one. This guy, I know what that's all about. I hope that worked out for you there. Let's see. Another one was this guy. This is a Pyrocube, by the way. Really good looking Pyrocube, by the way. He's got the MR30 connectors, I believe, on there. So you get the quick swap motors. That adds a bit of weight. I'm trying to build a Pyrocube as light as I can get it right now. Let's see, what were some other ones? I really like this one. I like the picture itself, the depth of field. I don't know if this is Faco, iPhone, Samsung depth of field, but I like it. I took a lot of photography classes in high school and college. Photography has always been kind of my thing. Back in the day of developing black and white yourself in a dark room. And so that is the short list of contenders. FPV Gaps, hello, how you doing? Yeah, Craft King, it is a pretty cool frame. It seems a lot more involved than it really is once you get into it. Oh, by the way, no PBR today. I've got whatever this thing, White Claw. I don't know. It's yummy, and I'm out of beer. So that would be why. All right, so hopefully everybody's staying safe out there. I know the world's still kind of upside down, but let's get to this, and I am going to tell you right now the winner of the Caddx Dolphin, if they so choose to accept it, is, where are we at? And yep, it's this one right here. John Larson. This picture is just straight up badass America right there, all over it. I love every single thing about this picture. The quad, the Yima frame, the grinder motors. I don't know if those are Hurricane props. Flag blurred in the background. This is awesome. Great job with this. I really like it. John, if you want this thing, it's yours. Hit me up. You know how to get a hold of me. Just hit me up through Patreon and we'll square it away. But anyways, that is. Sorry guys, still got a little bit of a cough I'm working through. I'll try to save the headphone wearers from blowing out their eardrums. I don't have my mute button set up right now. But that is my pick, and also my daughter's pick, for the Caddx Dolphin here. Like I said, John, go ahead and hit me up on Patreon, and we'll work out the details there. So, what is on the chopping block for next month? Well, I got this. If any of you guys know what this is, actually you probably don't unless you're people who have flown with me before. Brent, Daniel, you know what this is. This is a toothpick, but it's a big old toothpick. This is a 5-inch toothpick. It's a design that is on Thingiverse by David C. or Dave C. It's called his Gate Hunter frame, and it is a 5-inch toothpick. I was able to build a 5-inch racing drone that was exactly 250 grams with a battery all up, and with some pretty heavy props. I think you could get under there using one of the Beta FPV AO boards. I think I had a Runcam Nano Swift in here, RXSR, and an eSheen Pro VTX. I think that's what it is. Yeah, Dave C. Dude, the guy's brilliant. He's got some really cool designs out there. So this will be the item for next month. Obviously, it's going to come bare. I'll include the canopy and some of the standoffs. But I built this up with some AMAX Eno. I think they were 1407 motors. This thing was crazy to fly, but it needs a lot of tuning. So If you want to build this up, it might be a bit of a chore, but pretty cool looking frame. I cut this myself in my back in my shed with my Shapeoko 3. So hand cut, well, I mean machine cut by me, but it is one of Dave C's designs. All right, so okay, YouTube hasn't kicked me off yet. That is a good sign. So let's see if we can get this to work here. All right, so lift the lights here. So I'll show you guys the shit show I'm working with here. So this is the pile of parts for the cube that I'm going to be building. And well, I mean, I don't know if I've ever really shown this. This is kind of like what my whole work setup looks like. Kind of cramped in the corner, but it works pretty good. All my tools in the back there. Yep, if you have a 3D printer, you 3D print everything just because you can 3D print everything. Soldering iron is going to be my Hakko 888D. I do have a TS80, which is more than capable of doing this entire job, but it's just easier to use. Always the thing with the smaller soldering irons is just, what do you do with them when you set them down? You just burn holes in your desk. So anyways, like I said before, my computer here is running the NDI protocol for OBS, and it's streaming over to that computer there. A little more behind the curtain. And if you caught the first of the 3 live streams, that was the X class that I was flying in that video there. Just for some perspective of what I got going on here. Bleb M. Let's see, no idea how I ended up here. No idea how I ended up here. Hello, drones. I don't know anything about it, but I'm still watching. Cool. Well, thanks for stopping by. This is all about FPV racing drones. So I don't know if you ever caught the Drone Racing League, but they are racing little carbon fiber rockets like this with first-person view goggles, kind of like VR almost. But anyways, so let's start building. So the idea behind this is I want to build this entire quad live. I'm gonna do the whole thing live. Maybe I might get it all done tonight. I might do a little bit, have to go. I might get it like 20 minutes here and there, but every time I pick up a screwdriver or soldering iron or hit Betaflight, I will spark up a live stream, and hopefully you can see everything I go through to get this done. Sorry, I had a brain stop for a second there. So anyways, let's get started. It's gonna be kind of awkward. I'm gonna flip this camera around real quick. And here we go. Now we've got a bench cam. Oh, love it. All right, so let's go through some of the bits and pieces I'm going to be using tonight. All right, so we'll start with the frame. We already talked about it. This is going to be the Pyrocube frame. A little better look at that. So Pyrocube frame, it's a box style frame. Rigid is all hell. But this one, it's a heavy frame, unfortunately. And I used very heavy motors using these T-Motor Valix motors. The TPU parts are a lot of weight. I used 30 by 30 stuff that I had gotten out of the FPV crates. Very, very happy with the way this flies. So I'm going to build a second one using some lighter components. The best I can here. So we'll start with the motors. These are going to be the Brother Hobby UC 2207. These are 1750 kV motors. look a little something like this. These are a budget motor by Brother Hobby, but there is nothing budget about these things. These things are crazy value, performance to value. These are pretty much up there. I was poking around Midi Quad Test Bench, and the guy who runs that, I think his name is Ryan Harold, he had mentioned that performance to weight, the only motor he's tested that were, unless that was an old article, the only motor he tested that was as good as these, or better than these with less weight, were the Evan Turner 533 motors. So I've already got a quad with these on there, and I'm very happy with them, and they're pretty darn affordable. The flight controller in the ESC is going to be the iFlight Sussex Twin G F7D. The D indicates that it is plug and play with DJI. I don't plan on using DJI with this, but you know, the other parts of this stack are things that I do like. So it has twin gyros on the flight controller. It is a USB-C connection, which is something different that they're doing. And as you can see, there's two gyros here. One is mounted 90 degrees offset from the other, and that helps just filter out vibrations before getting to the PID loop. But this is a very good flight controller and ESC combo. The ESC, yeah, I kind of cheated a little bit. I already have this mounted to the bottom plate. And the reason, so truth be told, what takes me the absolute longest out of any build I've ever done, it's always figuring out the hardware and the stack up for all the bits and pieces. So I've probably spent at least an hour just trying to find hardware. I was trying really hard to go with 3mm hardware because I hate 2mm. This frame is designed around 3mm hardware for your stack screws, but I eventually broke down and went with 2, but I had to clip my own screws. Ramathorn, hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for stopping by. So that's the bottom plate. This bag of parts here, this is all of the frame pieces. Super complex frame, kind of, sorta. When you look at it, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but it's a lot easier to build than I thought it was going to be. The camera, I'm going to go with the Runcam Nano 3, or Runcam Racer Nano 3. So this is a nano size camera. This is, I think, their latest edition of the Runcam Nanos. I've used some of their older Runcam Nanos and the Racers, and I've always really liked them. And it's small. We're going for as light as we can go without sacrificing any sort of quality or performance as best we can. Receiver, we're going to go with Crossfire. I used to be a Crossfire guy back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean probably like 3 years ago. I really liked it. Then the owner started doing all his crazy shit that he does, and the FR Sky R9 system came along, and I tried that out, and it was just as good. And it still is just as good from a performance and RF standpoint, and it was a lot cheaper. One reason I've gone back to TBS is because I've been flying the Tango 2, which to date is my favorite radio I've ever used. And unfortunately, I've used a lot. Downside to this radio is all it does is Crossfire, so we're going with Crossfire. The receivers are small. There's a lot of other features out there that I do like about them, but we're going to go with this stuff. We're going to go with the Crossfire for today. As far as the antenna for the Crossfire goes, I'm not going to use the stock whip, and I'm going to use one of these Video Aerial Systems 900 megahertz flat PCB antennas. This is kind of like one of their older style. It says Rev 1 on there. I don't know what that means. We're not flying in bandos. We're not flying long distance. We're racing. So I need something that's small, light, and reliable. 2 reasons I don't finish a heat is, 1, I eject a battery, and before 2 was I clipped an antenna using all this 900 megahertz nonsense. These antennas, this is the stock antenna that comes with it, are unbelievably sensitive. If you clip off just this much of this antenna and you touch the ground, the ground will cause enough attenuation that you're not rearming, most likely. 2.4 gigahertz, like, you know, your regular RX SRs and XM pluses, you can fly around with damn near no antenna on them and they work just fine. But 900 megahertz is very, very sensitive to antennas and mounting and antenna quality. This strikes a really good balance between not having to worry about clipping one of these, because that's a lot of antenna to hang out, get rid of that guy, and range and performance. I don't need a lot of range. I just need something reliable and light. So this has worked out really, really well in my last quad that I built. So I'm going to stick with one of these. And the receiver we're going to use is going to be the TBS Unified Nano Pro. Again, like I said, this is a race quad. I don't need to go to the moon. I don't need anything more than, honestly, 25 milliwatts. Damn near every race organization out there caps everything at 25 milliwatts just to they cap their races to 25 milliwatts because you really can't get a lot of pilots up when you start cranking up the power output. So we're gonna go with this guy, and I'm gonna use one of these White Noise SPV mounting boards. I think White Noise makes this one. Either White Noise or Tiny's LEDs makes them. I'm not 100% sure. Nope, this one's White Noise. So the VTX is going to solder in right there, and the receiver is going to solder in right there. Makes for a nice, compact little package. There is a lot of space in this frame to build, and I really don't need to do this, but I do like trying to keep everything nice and tidy inside the build itself. Back in the back. Come on, guys. There we go. Yeah, and then I'm just going to run a SMA pigtail because the 3D printed parts that come with this frame, which is very nice of them to include, is designed for this style of pigtail. Really nothing special about it. UFL connector and all that fun nonsense. And here is the 3D printed parts that come with the frame. They don't even have time to pull the support material off. That's that's your problem to deal with. It comes with a flip stick mount, a camera mount, and a SMA holder for the back of the quad for your antenna. These parts are a little on the heavy side, but I was contacted by the creator or the designer of this frame. God, I can't remember his name. Man. Belmont, that's what it is, Belmont. And he told me the prototype name of this frame was called the Ligero, and there's a bunch of parts on Thingiverse for it. So if you're looking for different parts for this, look up the Ligero. There is fixed camera mounts, which is what I want to go with. And this is 45 and this is 50. I think we're going to start with a 45. They're a lot lighter, and then here is the design that they have for basically like a flip stick to help you with turtle mode. I'm probably going to use these parts just to try to save a little bit of weight. I'm definitely going to use the camera mount because I do like the fixed camera angle way better. And I believe that Belmont, I don't know. So anyways, that pretty much covers all the bits and pieces. Other things, if you've never built a quad before, other things you're gonna need: tweezers, soldering iron, an extra set of hands to hold shit, some burn cream because you're probably gonna burn yourself, side cutters, zip ties, some tape, things like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started here. Like I said, I've already mounted the ESC, and the motor outputs on this. So this is going to be the front of the quad facing that way. Motor 1, 2, 3, and 4. Some of these ESCs I do like to mount the other way around because of the connection for the pins going to the flight controller are on the bottom. I really wish they would put them on the top so you get this even closer to the carbon. But unfortunately, that's not how this one's designed. I really haven't found the perfect ESC yet, but this one's pretty good. And plus, the pads are not reciprocated on the underside, so we've only got the top to solder to. So that is the bottom plate. Here's a couple of the arms. I was planning on like yeah, the Ramathorn, the camera angle changing on the Tiny Hawk 2 is a real pain in the butt. I go and I put a witness mark across the canopy with like a Sharpie, just make sure it's in the same place every time. But if you have a really good crash, your camera angle turns to like 90 degrees. It makes it pretty hard to fly. But yeah, like John said, yeah, like you're saying, I'd just put some hot glue on that thing and be done with it. You can always fly faster with a lower camera angle. Let's get some of these parts out of here. Just a big old pile of carbon. All these pieces are 2 mil. I know it seems pretty thin, but I think the way it's designed makes it extremely durable, or it's at least proven to be extremely durable. So we got that, and so the way that this works out is, so on my previous build video, I was corrected on the orientation of these arm pieces here. You can see there is like a notch here, and then there's like a sloping part here. The sloping part goes down, or does it go up? Crap, I can't remember. It goes... I think the notch goes up. I think the reasoning was some of the motors use obnoxiously large hardware to hold the bell on, and they needed to make a notch here to clear that. Not an issue that I'm going to have, so I'm not too worried about it, but we'll try to build it the right way. So let's go ahead and get some of these arms installed here. I gotta remember how this goes together. Alright. I'll put that there. This gotta go over here. Like so. Ugh, cutting mat. My work mat's seen better days. And let's see, these are different. There's 2 long ones, 2 short ones. Short ones go in the front and the back. But the side piece has got to go in first. So like that. And like this. Just go in here. I don't know if anybody's seen TBS has released a couple open source box frames, kind of like their the Source One. Oh, this is a shit show. All right, I'm gonna leave this off. That goes on first. Then this goes on. Ugh. You're definitely not rebuilding this thing on race day. I don't see that happening. Too many pieces. You know, when I started racing, I thought, you know, I'm gonna build a quad. And I'm gonna buy a bunch of extra pieces for it, so that way, if I wad it up onto a gate, mess the thing up, I can just replace arms and motors and ESCs and stuff like that in between heats. I tell you what, that is not the case. At least the group I race with, there's just not enough time in between heats to do that kind of stuff. You might be able to solder like a wire on. That's about it. There's an arm. There's another arm. It's like putting together a puzzle. Freestyle, next purchase. Love my Tiny Hawk 2. If you haven't seen my review of the Tiny Hawk 2 race, check that thing out. It is a good stepping stone into the faster paced world of race drones. It is surprisingly good. It is way better than it needed to be. They've basically created internal competition for themselves because now the Tiny Hawk Freestyle is completely useless. Like I can't see them moving any units unless they really drop the price on the Tiny Hawk Freestyle after making the Tiny Hawk race, because it does everything the Freestyle does, just better. I don't know who they're using to cut this carbon, but man, it is cut so well. It is so precisely made. Like, you don't have to pound it in, but it fits tight. Sorry guys, if you're just tuning in, building up a Pyrocube race quad, and I do have a bit of a cough, so I'll try my best to get the mic away from me when I do. I'm using a lav, so it's kind of hard to run away from it. Let's see, I've got some questions rolling in here. Olivero Felix, need to get on sim, just waiting on some batteries. Yeah, get on the sim. The sim has been really, really good at, it really helps with the fundamentals, and it actually does translate quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I have a card here from my last TBS purchase, and it's 5% off of Velocidrone. So, if anybody wants this, here is my code. I don't know if this is universal, if it's only one-time use, but here you go. The code is 5 Delta 7 7 5 1 Charlie 1 Bravo 4 6 5 Echo. 5% off. Get it while you can. Hope somebody gets that and hope somebody enjoys it. Ramathorn, how long have I been racing? 3 years. 3 years now, and I've been flying FPV quads for 6. 5 or 6-ish. First quad was the Ishin Wizard X220. Straight out of Stu's recommendations from UAV Futures. Let's see. Isn't the race a lot smaller than the freestyle though? A little bit. Props are the same size. The chassis is the chassis is a little bit smaller. But as far as the powertrain goes, the ESC flight stack is exactly the same. The motors are higher kV but same dimension. Still uses the same 2.5-inch props. Or no, still uses the same 2-inch props? Yeah. No, maybe uses smaller props. I don't know. I'd have to check on that one. The camera is way better. It's using the Runcam Racer Nano, I think, and it has a 25, 50 or 25 and 200 milliwatt VTX, which the camera and the VTX alone make it just all that much better, at least in my opinion. I have used every one of the drone simulators out there. In the past, I preferred DRL only because Velocidrone has a lot of issues with performance. You need a pretty good computer to run Velocidrone. And my laptop, so the Microsoft Surface Book has, you know, it's an older design, older laptop, older processor. It has an Intel processor, which has, you know, it has a kind of a crappy graphics process. You know, it doesn't do graphics too well. But the one I bought also has a dedicated GPU in the base of it. Velocidrone didn't utilize that, but DRL did. So DRL ran really good. Now that I have a different computer that is kind of more normal, Velocidrone is kind of the go-to. It seems to be more popular with the racing crowd, but if I were to go and like want to do some acro stuff and mess around with that, Liftoff would be my preferred simulator for that. So with this frame, I'm just unboxing all these motors. All your motor screws, completely useless. Can't use them. They're too short. Luckily, this frame does come with its own motor screws, which is another downside to this frame. If you're looking for downsides to it, you do need some 14mm long M3 screws. Blake FPV, is this a repeat? A repeat of what? Kind of curious. Have I built one of these before? Yes. Is this a repeat of a live stream? Well, I've tried this 3 times today, so I guess it could be a repeat if you want to look at it that way. So for the motor screws, I am not going to use the included steel motor screws. I'm going to use aluminum. I've always had great disdain for aluminum hardware on these things because it always fails. But then again, the source of the aluminum screws that I was getting was typically from the manufacturers, and they were just grade A Swiss cheese crap. I actually bought some high grade or higher grade aluminum screws from Fasteners Express, I believe. So these, I mean, even just installing one of these, I can already tell this is a way stronger screw than some of the other aluminum screws I've used in the past. So I'm just going to tack the motors in place, just to kind of hold the whole frame together. And I'm not really going to wrench anything down yet. Does Velocidrone work on Mac? I think so. I don't know though. That's a good Google question. My first FE quad was the Eachine QX65 Whoop, maiden flight, landed in the pool. Yeah, you know, so many people that is their maiden flight. It's either a runaway or in the water somewhere. It still surprises me to this day how many times on Facebook groups I see my very first flight had a fail safe and it just took off and it's gone forever. I don't know if I would like to think that people aren't being shitty and just trying to get sympathy or handouts. But man, failsafe. Gotta check that. Gotta check failsafe. I'll be honest, I don't check failsafe with every quad I build. I reuse the same model in my radio for pretty much every quad I build, depending on the like, you know, all right, so I'll make a new model for like if I'm running Crossfire, I'll make another model for R9, I'll make another one for Access on RXSRs, just to keep them all straight. once I build one model and I know the failsafe works on it, I really don't check the next one I bind to it. Probably should, but I don't really do it. So anyways, so I'm just gonna put 2 motors in, or 2 screws in each motor, just kind of cinch them down a little bit, just to kind of hold the frame together. So much of the frame's integraliness, we're gonna make up some new words today, guys, is based on the motors pinching everything together. Dried it off, you dump it in a bag of rice. It seems to work. I don't know why. I don't know if it actually works, or if it just, or if it's kind of a placebo effect. But anything I have that's not waterproof that I dunk in water, I want to throw it in a bag of rice. Oh man, need to do a beer run. I want a beer. Velocity does work on Mac, but has performance issues depending on which model of Mac. Yeah, Velocidrone is pretty picky with a lot of different aspects of computer type stuff. Sorry guys, hope that wasn't too loud. All right, so we've got the basic structure of the frame together. This thing is already pretty stiff, but you can see that, you know, it's not complete without all its parts. It's still got a bit of flex in there. We'll leave that out for now. Let's go and spark up the old Heiko. Soldering. Soldering is the bane of a lot of people's existence here. Soldering and binding FR Sky. It's kind of weird, right? So I've been soldering for a very long time. I see a lot of advice about temperatures and techniques. Practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. As far as temperature goes, I'm in the United States, so we're going to talk about the stuff in freedom units. So my soldering iron is set to 850 degrees Fahrenheit all the time for everything. Big or small, I don't care. 850. Just crank that thing to 850. Here's the tip I use for everything, big or small. It's this guy. It's the little chisel tip that came with my soldering iron. I have a little pin style tip. This little guy here. This thing is a pain in the ass. I don't recommend using it. If you're working on stuff that's that small and you need to switch a tip out like that, you probably know what you're doing. And I'll be honest, anything that I would think that to switching this out, I still use the chisel tip because it works just fine. It's all about technique. A lot of people ask about flux. Flux, yeah, you can use it, but you got to clean it off. I really don't like using flux. I think it's not entirely necessary for doing rework or resoldering things that have already been soldered once. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Let me try to zoom in here. Is this camera really going to overheat? No way. Well, I'm really hoping this camera doesn't die. I picked up a used Sony A5100, and it overheats. But I've never had it overheat while just using it in like a live view mode. So I just flipped up the screen on it to try to get it to cool off a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't die. If it does, I'll snatch a craptastic webcam and keep on going. So here's a bit of technique. This is hot. This is not, and neither is this. You need to get the heat from this into this. Now, if you think about it, like take this pencil and you touch the two together, where is the heat transfer? It is just right here at that, just a tiny little spot right there. To get more heat transfer into your work, the tip has to be clean. So we're just going to hit it with the copper scouring pad. Put a little bit of solder on there. Now your contact patch between your iron and your work is going to be the size of that blob. And the heat is going to transfer so much faster. It's all about getting the minimum amount of heat to get the work hot enough to get the solder to flow to the work without overheating things. So the shorter dwell time, and dwell time is the time that you're on the work with the soldering iron, the better. But it still needs to get hot to accept the solder. Here's what it would look like if I did one that was too cold and I was in and out too quick. See that? See that little fleck of stuff right there? Watch, I could probably just scrape that off my fingernail. Well, maybe not, but anyways, that'll be what happens. You'll get this weird, like wrinkly, dull finish. You want to be using rosin core solder. There are different qualities of solder. The only stuff I use is by SRA. This guy stuff here. This is a 6337, 32 thousandths rosin core solder. The stuff that you're going to pick up from AutoZone, it's good for putting in your flight bag, but it's crap. It's good in a pinch if you need it, though. So those pads, being as big as they were, it doesn't take long to heat them up. And there's a reason why I started on those, because now, after touching those, I've kind of preheated this board, and I'm going to go to these bigger pads here. The board's already kind of warmed up a little bit more than it would be if I just went straight for these. So now I'm going to do my main discharge leads. And I'm going to put the solder wire just between the tip and the pad. And you'll see the pad start to take the solder. Just like that. A little more. There you go. And that's that. Let's see. Ramthorn, peeling my ass back, just received my soldering iron, and I've never soldered before. Class time. Oh, hang on one second. Let me grab something. Be right back. All right, Ramathorn. Here's a little tip. Everybody sells these stupid little solder practice boards. Get yourself one of these. They're usually just a couple of bucks. They have all sorts of different size pads for you to practice on. Also dead electronics. If you know anybody who's been in this hobby for a little while, they have plenty of dead electronics. Try to grab some stuff from them. Use that stuff to practice. This is a big help. Learning how to solder is one of these little guys. Yeah. So this is just a PCB with a bunch of pads on it. Pretty good little solder practice board. Definitely practice before you start going at your good stuff. Yeah, Diatone sells them, and they even give them away with, I think their Mamba, their 30x30 stacks come with a Legend, but it's also like a solder practice board. I think, I'm not really sure. 3D printed exhaust fan. Nope, exhaust fans are bullshit. Solder doesn't get hot enough to actually atomize the lead that's in it. Where people get into trouble is you got your grubby little you-know-whats on the solder, and then you touch your food, touch your mouth. That's how you get the lead in your body. The smoke is just the rosin core flux burning off. All that is it's a tree sap. If you are sensitive to it, then yeah, an exhaust fan's fine. But I've gone to school for soldering in a room with 30 guys soldering all day long with zero ventilation, and it's perfectly fine. Box of old keyboards and computer parts. Can I practice on those? Yeah, I mean, you can practice on anything. Big one to work on is tinning wires. We'll go over that here in just a minute. Yeah, I think the Mamba F7 I had came with one of those soldering boards. Yeah, this one I think comes from Get FPV. This is what came in their FPV crate one month. Uh, yeah, yeah, basically anything. So the qualities of the pads are different from like keyboards and this stuff. This stuff has like a gold pad on it, or sorry, a copper pad. So they're prepped pretty well. So the three C's of cleaning is or of damn it, I screwed that one. The three C's of soldering are cleanliness, cleanliness, cleanliness. A is cleaning the work. If it's old and oxidized, hit it with an old, like just a pencil eraser like this. That'll clean up the pad pretty well. The idea of the flux is it makes all the contaminants that are in the work rise up and kind of get flushed away. That's the whole point behind flux. There is flux inside of your wire. Inside of the wire, there's a hollow core. There's a small little channel of flux in here. Really good soldering, if you're really getting at it and you're working in a pretty high-end environment, is you have to clean your solder too, because this stuff oxidizes. Isopropyl alcohol is another one of your good friends. So here, just a quick example. So I don't know how well that's going to come across on the camera, but there's all the oxidation that was just on my solder wire right there. Soldering for aerospace, which is a lot of the stuff I do. Yeah, you're wiping your solder down with isopropyl alcohol. All right, so we've got this guy all tinned up. Go ahead and put it in the frame like so. And let's start talking about routing our wires. So two different ways this will work is you'll have a props in configuration and a props out configuration. Dang it, I thought I just threw away some props. So, all right, let me grab a prop. There we go. I always got bad props laying around. So anyways, props in configuration. So this is the high end of the blade, so it's going to be scooping air in towards the camera. This is the Betaflight default, so props in. There's also a props out configuration where it's scooping air away from the front of the quad and into the center, and that's also the same for the back, so it'll be scooping air away from the back. This reversed setup is the preferred way most people race. As far as flight performance goes, I don't know if there's a real big advantage, but the advantage is if you center up on a gate, say this is a gate, and you're running a props in configuration, you hit that gate, what's going to happen? It ends up sucking the quad into the gate. Whereas if you're doing a props out setup, you hit that gate, it's going to want to push your quad away from the gate. And I admit I hit a lot of gates because I kind of still suck at flying, or still suck at racing. It does make a big difference. Same thing doing acro stuff. You clip a tree, that's the difference between getting sucked into the branch or getting pushed away from it. So anyways, with this, I'm going to set up a props out configuration. So something to think about is these props are pretty darn durable now, and they do like to get bent. So if you bend a prop, let's say we bend this guy like this, it comes around, it's going to go this way and start clipping things. So ideally, you want to mount your motor wires out of the path of danger. So you're going to want to, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to mount my motor wires to the inside of the center of the front and the back. That way, if I do have a prop get bent, because this thing will fly just fine with a prop that's all whacked out like that, but it won't if I clip a motor wire. So exhaust fan with a hose that says go away, keep wife happy. Yeah. I don't know if there's any keeping her happy. Oh shit, I said that out loud, didn't I? So let's go ahead and set up my motor wires. I like to just kind of, so this is a Tesla tape. It's like a fabric tape. It's pretty good stuff. It's pretty durable. I like to mount. So I can zoom this guy out now, can't I? All right. So I like to take the Tesla tape and just kind of put one wrap ish around the motor and motor wires. This stuff adds up quick, so you want to try to use as little as you can. Oh, turn your soldering iron off between uses. The longer you let it run, the shorter your tip life will be. But with that said, I've let the soldering iron run for about 3 days straight, and I'm still using the same tip. The only reason why my tips survive is because I put them away dirty as hell. And by dirty as hell, I mean they're covered with solder. Leaving solder on your tip when you shut it off will encapsulate the tip and keep air from getting in there. And if there's no air, it can't oxidize. That is how you'll make a tip last for damn near ever. Yep, building Pyrocube. Sorry if you guys have questions or comments that pop up. I'll get to them eventually. I'm not really looking at the screen so much while I'm doing this, but I do peek back over there from time to time. I had a whole playlist lined up that I was going to play just for some background music while I was doing this, but YouTube's got me all freaked out after killing my last 2 live streams today. I don't know what the hell that was all about. Oh, damn it, I did that backwards. Idiot. You know, maybe just don't take advice from me. There we go. You know, I'll be honest. I think I enjoy building just as much just as much as I enjoy flying. I do build a lot. And I do blowouts every once in a while. Like I take a look at my room back here, and I'm like, damn it, I've got way too much stuff that I don't fly. Everything. If you're looking for used stuff, which is a good place to go. Travis, you're not subbed? Come on, brother. So here's a funny thing about subs is YouTube is big on analytics. Guess what % of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed? Go ahead and put it in the comments there. Just take a guess. Best build mat in the game? You are not kidding. I wish I could get a hold of these guys and get another one, but I think they're gone. Their social media is dead. I've tried contacting them. If anybody knows how to get a hold of one of these, please tell me. I need another one. I really want another one. Actually, I probably want like 2 or 3 more. Absolutely love this thing. It is the best build mat I could think of. But I can't get a hold of these guys anymore. If you go to their website, I get hit with like my internet browser won't even let me go to it. It's basically just treats it like it's a bad place to go. 50, 80, 45, 65. Travis, thanks a lot, brother. 65, 85. Steve, Travis, you are on the money. 85% of my viewers are not subscribed. 85%. It's crazy, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much subs actually mean. I don't know if they mean anything. All right, so we have our motor wires kind of secured. We have our motors kind of secured. We have our ESC already mounted up. Our pads are already tinned. So let's go ahead and start installing these motor wires. So a couple things you got to think about is how the rest of this quad builds up. Is in between here and here, there is a small standoff that goes back like right here. So we have to think about how we're going to route our motor wires around that. And it's hard to think about how to route them. Boots, yeah, I saw a picture of your build. Really slick build. Correct me if I'm wrong, are those called MR30? Are those MR30 connectors that you used on the motors? Just kind of curious. So let's get some of this hardware out of here. There's all our motor screws. Actually, I don't even want any of those. Let's go back in the bag. Any knowledge on tramp protocol? Yeah, kind of. Well, what you want to know? Yeah, I've got a whole bag of those MR30 connectors. I was going to use those on my my X-Class build. I just never did. My X-Class build, when everything's said and done, I plan on hacking the arms down on it to Beast Class status. I admit, I don't fly my X-Class nearly as much as I probably should. I mean, it's cool as shit every time I do, and it's a crowd pleaser, that is for sure. It also scares the hell out of everybody. Good quality screwdrivers. If you're getting into this hobby, good quality screwdrivers are worth every penny you're going to pay for them. JB is hawking some screwdrivers. They got like an aluminum handle on them. Those things are like Chinesium grade Swiss cheese crap. I absolutely hate those things. They do not hold up well. The tips are not hardened on them, and they kind of round out pretty quickly. These ones, these are made by Wera. These are really freaking nice. Banggood and Stuff, a bad place to buy from? Is that a question? I'll be honest, Banggood, I've had absolutely no problems ordering from Banggood. Well, no, I take that back. I've had problems ordering with them, but they always take care of their customer. They are the first ones to get stock of everything because, I mean, it's coming from right down the road. If you ever have a problem with a Banggood product, contact their customer service. It's slow, and you have to be persistent. If you have kind of a semi-failure with something, they'll want to offer you some really low-ball thing to some sort of low-ball solution. Like, oh, we'll give you $2 off because your VTX burned up the second you plugged it in. Just say no. They always come back and are like, okay, we'll give you full refund price, or we'll send you a new part, or they're always willing to take care of the customer. Just remember, the way they handle business is different than what you're used to. It's a different culture. Banggood definitely gets a bad rap. If you're expecting, always pay for the cheapest shipping, not the free shipping, but the next one up where you actually get tracking. Always pay for the next level shipping. It is well worth it in every regard. Another thing, like especially right now after the whole, what's going on right now, they've had a lot of low stock, and things will be in stock, but you need to check where it says processing time, because it may say, 35 days. It's in stock, but it's going to take 35 days to process. That's some weird business practice. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. Just like Google, when you look at their shopping links, they'll say stuff's in stock, and then you go to the retailer, and it's clearly not in stock. I don't know why they do it, but that's just the way they do it. By the way, if you want to purchase anything from Bang, or if you're going to purchase anything from Banggood or Get FPV, check out one of my other videos. I have affiliate links in there. Everything you purchase, I get a small commission. It costs you nothing, but it helps me out tremendously. I didn't put them in the description of this video because YouTube was doing some really crazy shit to me earlier, and it was kicking this is my third live stream tonight. The first two they kicked off in the first minute, said I violated some sort of community something, so I just removed everything. But hey, I would greatly appreciate it. I do work pretty closely with Banggood. They send me products for review. They're monetarily, they are free. but they're not free. Everything that comes from them is a commitment. Everything that comes from them is my time and my effort. Everything is a commitment. I enjoy doing this stuff. I love seeing the new products. Typically when I get things, I do the review, I hang on to them for a little while, and I broom them. Either I give them away or I sell them for dirt cheap. And that helps kind of make this hobby a little more self-supportive between Google AdSense, Amazon affiliates, Banggood affiliates. Can't do super chat for my country. Any other way I can support the channel? Yeah, Travis. Head over to my Patreon. I have tiers starting from $2. They enter you into early access for content. Unfortunately, I used to do giveaways only to patrons, and I kind of do here and there, just kind of skirt the rules. Technically, that's a no-no, but yeah, Travis, I would greatly appreciate it. Patreon is a good place to support me. So we're going to get around to soldering these wires in. I like to do them one at a time. So I usually work from the outside in, if that makes sense, looking at how I have this set up. More zoom, more zoom. All right. So I'll typically just route the wire, clip it, and tin it up. And then just kind of solder in place. Oh, that looks like shit. The struggle is real, folks, trying to solder around a camera in front of all you fine folks. I mean, clearly you could do this with a set of toenail clippers if you wanted to, but diagonal cutters, precision diagonal cutters are a lifesaver in this hobby. You want to see, when you look at them, you'll see that they're just ground flat on one side. These are precision ones. Where do I sell my extra stuff? I either give it away on Patreon, or I will sell it on Facebook Marketplace. Usually the FPV Marketplace is where I typically sell it. I don't go by Tweet FPV on there. I kind of try to keep a little anonymity, so I can call someone a fucking retard on Facebook and not get blown up. And I mean no disrespect for anybody there, but I try to help out as many people as I can, but I do like to keep a lower profile if possible. Let's see. What's the best way to try to get with Banggood? I don't know. They contacted me. They contacted me very early in my channel growth. I think I was probably at I think they hit me up right at 1,000 subscribers. They hit me up and started talking to me. It never hurts to actually just contact customer service. They have a whole department that all they do is deal with affiliates. Create a Banggood affiliate account, and you can start there. Other affiliates that I have is Get FPV. They're the only U.S. local retailer that I know of that does affiliate type stuff. Well, Boots, I really appreciate that. I try to be as honest as possible. I try to see the bright side and everything where I can, but you know, I'm not afraid to be honest. So one of the comments that I've seen before is everything you review is good. You never review anything that's bad. Well, So the deal is I get to pick and choose what I want to review. Why would I pick something that is going to be a piece of shit? I've looked at products that my rep at Banggood has said, hey, you want to look at this? And I can take one look at it, look at the specs, and be like, yeah, that's going to be absolute garbage. I don't even want to bother with it. So, yeah, so you do see a disproportionate amount of good things, especially like on my YouTube channel. It's because I get to pick what I want to look at. I'll be honest, a lot of stuff I review is purchased out of pocket. Especially lately, it's all been out of pocket. With the Chinese New Year, the whole thing that's going on right now. By the way, the reason why I'm not saying it by name is people are getting demonetized for saying that word. YouTube has pretty good bots, algorithms, whatever, that kind of figure out what you're saying, and they'll just demonetize you just for mentioning words. Kind of crappy, isn't it? Let's see, FPV motor 7, best 7-inch motor. Depends what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do like a long range, or if you're trying to have a 7-inch that you're going to do flippy floppy and try to rip your face off, it all depends. And it also depends on what size battery you're going to run. I had a let's see, it was a 7-inch chameleon that I built. I was going to dabble in the long range stuff, and then I built it and I flew some long range stuff, and then I realized that I live in a really freaking boring area where it's flat and there's nothing cool to look at. So that went away. I buy and sell quads a lot. I build a lot. I sell a lot. I buy a lot. Most recent acquisition is, and I hope y'all don't hate me for this. It's a very polarizing subject. Oh, this guy here. I consider it a business expense just because now I have one of these to model grips for. But I actually bound it up and flew it today, and I gotta admit, it ain't bad. It's actually a pretty damn nice controller. It feels really good, fits the hand really well. It's heavy, and it's got a fan in it, which is weird and annoying, but pretty good little radio. It's kind of cool setting up a quad where you don't have to. Yeah, I probably should have zoomed out for doing that. Yeah, it's the DJI FPV radio. It's kind of cool being able to build a quad, especially if you buy a flight controller that's like a direct plug and play, where it's like you solder up your motors and then your XT60, and that's it. Like it's so easy to build a DJI quad, and every time they come out with a new software update, it just keeps getting better and better. I'm not a digital fanboy. I do appreciate it for what it is, and I'll be honest, they're definitely here to stay, and they're definitely in our hobby. I had my reservations in the beginning when I saw what their air units were like and what their goggles were like, and I'll be honest, it was just a hot mess. Frankly, it was just garbage. I really hated everything about it in the beginning, but they start doing good clickbaity vids. Yeah, you know what? I got a bone to pick about that one. I've been contacted by a bunch of people. They're like, man, you need to change the titles. You need to call it, well, you'll never guess what this is, and blah, like all the little clickbaity bullshit. Like, yeah, you'll get more views. I'm like, yeah, you are 100% correct. Fuck that. I don't care. Sorry. I swear a fair bit. I will try to keep it to a minimum, but when I get rolling, you know, I cuss like a sailor. I'm sorry. It's something I try to avoid doing. I got to remember. I gotta talk like as if my grandma's around. I gotta curtail that a little bit. Let's see, Boots. Hey, what do you think of the TBS Source V2 compared to the Pyrocube? I'm going to do a GPS and want to do a longer flight. So I was using the 2806.5 Brother Hobby Avengers. They're like 20 a piece. That ain't bad for a motor like that. That's pretty affordable. And if you're doing long range, you're not really super concerned about durability. You're concerned about efficiency. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell how good a motor is going to be without actually getting it in your hand. I would be looking for a motor that's about the right size. I don't know if I would assume you're going to try 6S. I would be going for a very low kV. The smoother the motor is, like when you turn it by hand, it's not like super notchy. Typically, the more efficient it's going to be. And I assume if you're going to be doing long range, you're trying to you strap a GoPro to it and try to get something that looks decent out of it. So smooth is going to be better. Mini Quad Test Bench, if you've never been there, they have a data explorer. The guy does motor benchmarking where he does write-ups on some motors. He does all the numbers and facts and figures. That's the thing about this hobby. There's just so much of everything, and everything's so different that it's hard to have a good opinion on everything. You can kind of look at specs and get a decent idea of what you would think about it, but until you actually get it, it's hard to know. Yeah, 6S, definitely be looking like, if you could find like, all right, so if you're trying to do long range, so you want like max efficiency, max range, definitely be looking at like low kV, like 1200 on like 7-inch bi-blades. Oh, sorry, folks. Still fighting a cough. Not the Rona. Oh boy, I said something that sounded like it. Hope I don't get demonetized. Shit. Who am I kidding? I don't make any money off these things anyways. I just like talking to the community. I love that you all came out and are chatting up a storm in the comment section. I really, really like that. My last couple live streams, they were live racing streams. Pretty dry content. It's a lot of sitting around listening to the host talk. Not super engaging. I guess I should be talking about what I'm doing here. So for those of you that aren't super familiar, what I'm doing now is I'm connecting the motors. So there's 3 wires to each motor because these are 3-phase AC motors. We power them off a DC lithium polymer battery. This device here takes that DC current and changes it to 3-phase AC. And that is what makes these guys run. So we have to solder all 3 wires for each motor to this ESC, electronic speed controller. Doing that, I'm clipping these wires to length, and I'm removing just a little bit of wire at the very end, maybe 3/16 of an inch, 3 millimeters, something like that. And you just want to kind of give it a little bit of a twist to kind of fix the lays. You don't want to crank down on the wire and over stress the wind. You want to kind of put it back to its natural lie or lay, or however you say it. And then to tin them, just taking my soldering iron, clean the tip, just a little bit of solder on the tip, and then just kind of touch the wire from underneath, and then touch the solder wire to the wire until you see it kind of flow into the wire. Now you don't want to do too much because there's a phenomenon called wicking where the solder will actually work its way underneath the jacket, and you'll see that the wire, unless you're using wicking pliers, you're going to get wicking. That's just the way it is. Wicking pliers look like, or anti-wicking pliers. I know I've got a set somewhere. Well, there's a couple. Oh, here's a set. So this is a really craptastic pair of anti-wicking tweezers. Basically, these are aluminum. They act as a heat sink. So what you would do is you put that on the wire, and when you solder, the solder will not go past this set of tweezers because this is soaking the heat away from the wire. So if there's no heat, the solder won't flow. There's also some that look like a set of tweezers like this that cap over the end of the wire. Those are the even better style. The reason why you don't want wire wicking is it creates a brittle joint right there. If you see, if I bend this wire over, you see how it kinks right there? This wire is solid right up to there. So if you have an application where things are vibrating, it will prematurely wear and break down right there. Luckily for us, this shit never lasts long enough to get to that point. But, you know, all these skills translate. You know, if you're trying to solder a broken jack on your TV or something in your car, all this skill translates. So putting best practices forward, you know, something inspirational. I don't know what I was going to say there. Oh, let's see. Go back to the comments here. Oh, if you want to get my attention, 2 ways to do that in the comments. One, type @ and then tweet FPV. It'll probably pop up. I don't think it works on mobile, and it'll highlight my name in yellow. Or hit that super chat button if you feel like that as well. Let's see. Roll back to the comments here. Cloth tape. Yeah, cloth tape's awesome. This stuff here is made. It's made by Tessa. Really good stuff. You get like a 3-pack of it for like $1 on Amazon. I don't know if it's $1, but you get more than you'll ever use in a lifetime. So I use Tessa tape on damn near everything just because I have a ton of it. One of these days I'm going to get around to needing it and I'll be out and I'll be like, oh, I should never have just frivolously burned that stuff away. All right, so we have all our motors connected. Another super important tool that I've never heard anybody talk about besides me is one of these guys. This is a jeweler's loop. This is a 7x magnification. I'd say this is even better than having a multimeter for doing your builds. Doing a quick visual assessment of your solder joints can tell you so much. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I have one solder joint that looks like just total garbage. It's the first one I did here. So this brings us back to my flux pen. So since I'm going to do a rework on this, this is where I would use extra flux. I have a flux pen, which has been pretty handy. But for as much soldering I do, I use liquid flux in a little squeeze applicator. Again, I solder a lot, like a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this wire. So just get it with my tweezers, get in there, heat it up, and pop this bad mamma jam off here. Now, right there I made a big mistake is I accidentally let go of the wire. That state where the wire just came off the pad, the flux on, the solder on the wire is still, it's possible that it's still liquid. And when you go like this and you flick a wire and you let go of it, little blobs of solder will go everywhere where they're gonna go because it's gonna go on your FETs. It's gonna bridge a pad on here, and you're gonna get the magic blue smoke when you power up the first time. So always take your iron off the thing you're working on, give it a couple seconds, then let go. Never flick your soldering iron like this. I've seen people do this to get solder off their soldering iron in school. If you did that, someone's going to drag you out and beat you. Because I've caught solder blobs down my back of my shirt because of people doing that kind of crap. And if you're soldering around other people and you burn yourself, suck it up and don't move. Too many people burn themselves and they flip out and they start waving their hands around while they have a soldering iron in their hand with liquid solder on it. Guess where that blob of solder goes? It goes on the side of your eyeball or down the back of your shirt or somebody else's shirt. Just, yeah, sorry. That was a little mini rant. Yeah, Travis, skills transfer, fixing. Yeah, you'd never think you'd solder as much as you do until you get into this hobby. And my wife made a comment the other day. She's like, "You are always soldering stuff." I'm like, "There's always stuff to solder." Like, what the last like pedestrian thing that I soldered. We had these craptastic little solar LED walkway lights. They worked great for about the first month we had them. Now they don't work because they're not really weather shielded. So the on-off switch is also kind of how the, like, if you turn it off, the solar panel doesn't charge the battery, the lifey battery that's in there. So the switch is getting crappy. I'm not going to replace the switch, so take it apart, find the switch, bridge the contacts on the switch with Mr. Pokey Hot End thing, and now they work better than they have ever worked from like day one. There must have been so much resistance in those stupid switches. Yeah, Splatter gets wild, man. I saw Surge from Pyro started advertising these magnifying head gear unit things. I've used those. I don't like them just because I'm weird like that. And I have pretty good vision, so I don't typically need them. Humble brag, maybe? I don't know. But those things are game changers for people when it comes to soldering. If you struggle at all with soldering, that, dude, pick one up. You'll hate yourself for not getting it sooner. All right, so let's move on to the part that always freaks everybody out. So this flight controller came with an XT60. I have seen too many times where people have soldered this stuff up and they went and plugged their LiPo in, and it turns out the manufacturer soldered the wires on backwards. So always check this stuff. Don't trust the manufacturer. And it sucks even more because some of these like really high quality AMAS ones, they don't mark positive or negative. Real easy way to tell is just grab a LiPo, don't plug it in, and just see that, yep, that's how the two were made up. These are right. Buddy of mine nuked his stack, and the guy's pretty seasoned at this stuff. He didn't even think twice about it. Soldered up, plugged it in, turned out they were soldered from the factory backwards. Another thing is the solder that comes on these things can and typically is lead free. Back in, well, I really don't know history, but I know there was a trade issue with things that are considered toys, kids' toys, and the fact they can't contain any lead. So therefore, lead-free solder is on everything. So first thing I always do is get rid of this. Safety squints. All right, we'll get rid of that. Expose some fresh material, and we'll retin this. I've seen where people just add more solder to it. I don't like that because now you just have too much solder on there. All right, I'm gonna bring this guy out. I'm gonna preface this with, yes, it's 3D printed. Yes, it's on Thingiverse. Go to Thingiverse. Type in yet another Vice. There's like 300 of them. That's where the STL is. Oh, and yes, it is awesome. It's probably the most used Vice I own. It's so silly, but I use this thing all the time. All right. For big solder pads or wires like this, I will go and apply some flux to it. Again, not super necessary, but it's something that I just kind of do as a matter of habit. Just kind of just the way it works. So just touch your wire, your solder to the wire until it starts to soak it up. And there you go. You never want to like yank the soldering iron off the pad, you want to like roll it off. You don't want to pull, you want to roll. If you pull, you'll get peaks. There we go. All right, let's go over here. Boots, congratulations. You've been upgraded. There we go. So now we have fresh solder on there. John Larson. Hello, buddy. Let's go ahead and solder these guys up. Camera's getting hot again. All right. The tweezers I'm using, these are, I don't know where I got these from, but they're a ceramic non-conductive tweezer, which I really like if you have to push little boot buttons or binding buttons. Because if you slip off, you're not going to fry anything. Doesn't mean you won't rip anything off, but you won't fry anything. So there we go. Got that hooked up. Pyro versus Get FPV versus Race Day quads. Everybody, so all right. So here's an observation I have. Every time you see something on Facebook, people are like, "Oh, Pyro's awesome! I ordered my shit on Wednesday and I got it by Friday. They are the best in the world." All right, look. Yes, they should get a ton of credit for moving on your order and getting it processed freaking ASAP, which all these companies are incredible with. The credit has to go to the United States Postal Service. Back maybe 10 years ago, man, they sucked. Man, they were awful. Now they have competition with Amazon and all these other retailers, and UPS becoming very easy to ship with. The United States Postal Service is really, especially for their priority mail packages, has really stepped up their game. They are really doing well. The fact that they process it is one thing, but the fact that the United States Postal Service can get something from California to me in southern Alabama in like a day and a half, and I don't pay anything for shipping because I bought over $50 worth of crap, is just mind-blowing. All right. Here we go. So we're back to the quad here. Another really cool thing about this frame is these two holes here is something a lot of frame manufacturers don't pay attention to. This is for running a zip tie to retain your XT60 pigtail. Putting that strain relief on there, so if you launch a lipo, the idea is that instead of pulling on your pads, that zip tie is going to help retain this and not rip the pads off of your ESC. And the bad thing when you rip the pads off your ESC is now you have two live leads, or one, flailing around, and fire usually instills after that, or ensues after that. So we got that. Yeah, I shop from pretty much everybody. I'm not loyal to one company or the other. I would say, all right, you're going to learn a little bit more background about me. I would say I lean towards Race Day quads more than Pyro, but my allegiance lies between A, whoever has it in stock, and B, whoever has the best price. The reason I roll with Race Day quads is because the owner is, he's in the military. If you didn't know it, I also am in the military. I'm going to leave it at that for now. I mean, yeah, respect where it's due. A quick way to check if you are not all jacked up is give your motors a spin. They should kind of freewheel a little bit. They should all freewheel the same. If they don't, let's say you have a couple pads bridged or something. See how this motor just Oh man, I should probably zoom out. Come on. Wide? Is that right? There we go. All right, so now that you can actually see what I'm doing, you spin your motors, they kind of freewheel. If you had a bridge pad, so I'll bridge these two with a screwdriver here, you do the same thing. The motor breaks almost instantly. It's called fet drag. It's just a quick way to check that nothing's bridged without the need of a multimeter. Multimeters, they're dirt cheap. They're like 25 bucks on Amazon. Even for the crappiest one, just get one. It doesn't have to be the most precise thing in the world. Having one that sucks is better than not having one at all. Cool, Travis. I appreciate that, man. So anyways, we got our ESC hooked up. We got our XT60 hooked up. At this point, we can go and I gotta grab some stuff. Bear with me for a second. If you'd seen earlier, you'd see that my shop is an absolute mess right now. To this, to that, to this. How have I done this before? You know what? Screw it. I'm not going to do the XT or the smoke stopper. I'm just going to YOLO it. Yeah, I know I said YOLO. All right, here we go. So we have our motors hooked up. Motor's hooked up. We have a battery. This is just a little 3-cell. I know it doesn't really make a difference, but my superstition is that I just use the lowest voltage possible. Make sure I don't burn anything up. Use a smoke stopper, not those stupid. I know I have one here. Oh, I'm getting buried in all my stuff. Where's it at? Yeah, don't use one of these. These are a joke. So the idea behind this smoke stopper, the solid state one, is that when you bridge the contacts. Oh, that's right, they're non-conductive. Dummy. The idea is when you bridge the contacts, it opens a little fusible link in there, and it clamps the current. But it's not fast enough. It's not a current limiting device. It is just a like a switch. The ones with the light bulbs, these are the best because they will clamp the current down. If you connect it and there's a short, what will happen is the bulb will light up and it will reduce the current. It'll reduce the current. If you have a dead short, it's not going to help you. Just straight up, it's not going to do a damn thing for you. But it might make you feel better. If you've done the things I've done, hey John, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that. Where was I? So I forgot what I was going to say. Does that ever happen to you guys? Yeah, that happens to me a lot. If you've done the checks that I've gone through, you visually check it, check for solder blobs on your work. You've done the motor spinny thing. You've made sure your XT60 is not wired up backwards. You're going to have no issues when you hook this up. So here we go. Take bets. 3, 2, 1. There we go. No smoke, no problems. Yeah, Travis, exactly. Having a crappy multimeter that does continuity checks is better than none. You heard the startup beeps, the doot, doot, doot. That's what happens when the ESC gets powered up. Fun fact that a lot of people don't know, that sound is not coming from the ESC. It's actually coming from the coils in your motors, just like a speaker. So if you hook up your ESC without a motor hooked up to it, you're not going to get any tones. I know a lot of people know this, but I'm surprised how many people don't. So there's a little bit of tech info for you. Geez, I think my wife just came home, so we'll see if she wants to talk, and if she does, In 1 second here. All right, guys. So we have proven that this setup is good to go. So now if we get the rest of our stack built up and something catches on fire, we know it's not because of our ESC. It's not because of our motors. It's not because of our screws. It's not because of our XT60. So we won't be wondering. Something I see a lot of people do is like, oh yeah, I just got a brand new stack and it went up in smoke the first time I plugged it in. Or it died after the first pack and no crashes. Talk to the retailer. Get a replacement. Hold these companies accountable for their products. All right. Well, you know what, guys? We've been doing this for, let's see, how long have we been going? I have no idea. How do I figure this out? Let's see. Two hours, maybe? You know what? I think this might be a good place to put a fork in it and call it a night. It's a good stopping point. ESCs are hooked up. Motors are hooked up. Bottom half of the frame is connected. Next time we come back, I am going to probably pretty much finish this build. Maybe not the programming of it, but at least getting it all wired up and powered up. But that remains to be seen. Thanks everybody for coming and checking us out. I really appreciate it. Let me do this thing here. There we go. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please put in the comments below. If you go to my YouTube page and go to the About, my email address is in there if you need to hit me up. Facebook, TweetFEV at Facebook. Instagram /TweetFEV, Patreon /TweetFEV, Etsy, TweetFEV on Etsy if you want to check out my grips and all the other stuff I'm putting out there. Let's see, boots. What ESC is that? It is the iFlight Sussex. The iFlight Sussex Mini 40 amp 4-in-1 ESC. I'm sure that's not going to be in focus. Yeah, it's the part of the Sussex stack. No, I'm not going to forget the cap. The reason I didn't add it yet is because I want to get the top part on here to figure out where I got to put it. The last one I built, I put that sucker right up tight and I ran out of space. So not going to forget about that. At least I hope not going to forget about that. I'm sure you guys will remind me. Yeah, you know what? I think every time I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to make it as regular as I can. I don't work a very regular schedule. Family life is crazy. I've got a 6-year-old daughter who is, she's a lot. Absolutely love her, but good God, she is a handful at times. But I think the next time I come to do this, I don't know when I'm going to get time, but when I do it, I'm going to put up the live stream. If you guys can make it to that, that's awesome. If not, it'll be DVR'd and put up later. You'll get to see all the comments and everything. All right, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking us out. To all my Patreons, thank you for everything. My vendor or my retailers, my vendors, Banggood, Get FEV. Thank you. You're what makes this happen. And everybody stay safe. Thanks for coming out, and I will see you next time.